This is Johnny S with another R6 vlog. We're going to talk about adjusting things on our bike today. I want to give credit where credit is due. No one is born knowing everything, let's say. Most of the information that I'm going to share with you, I have seen over the years from many different sources, but if I had to suggest a specific channel, because it does have a lot of adjustment related to motorcycles sort of information, I will recommend you go and watch Dave Moss. He's more of a professional, and he's dedicated his channel on providing a lot of adjustability and configuration of your bike, whether that is suspension, which is something that I have not really played around with. He has a lot of other information which will help you to configure, and if you don't feel confident enough for you to configure yourself, at least understand and know what they're doing, so you can go from there and just explain when things happen in your bike a certain way. So we're in an indoor area. Lately I'm not doing a lot of vlogs because on the road with the weather being so cold, it's really uncomfortable speaking, you know what I mean? So, and the weather's going to get colder as well, so that's just a heads up. If you see my vlogs being more scarce, let's say, it's because of that. So the first one we're going to have a look at is the clutch lever. The clutch lever, as can be seen, I have already adjusted it as to per my liking. Let's straighten up the bike a little bit. So this is the clutch lever. When I'm on top of the bike, usually my hand angle is as such. So you can see it's a straight line. You don't want to have your fingers too high in order to get tired, and you don't want to have your fingers too low. So you gotta adjust this. The way you adjust this is there's a screw here on my one at least. Let me show you this way. So there's a screw, this one here. You undo this screw, and then you can actually shift this whole thing upwards and downwards, depending on how you want it. Obviously, when you're doing this adjustment, you do have to take care a little bit of the clearances. So as you're rising this up and down, you might interfere with some of these fairings, especially on Super Sport. So you gotta push it up and make sure it's not hitting anything as such. You gotta turn it all the way down here. If you see my one, is relatively very close. So it's quite close to the bottom side, but I dropped it a lot further down in comparison to what it was before. Since we are on this side, I'm also going to show the clutch foot peg. So you can adjust this foot peg, and there's many different configurations that you can do, as can be seen, to better fit your position. What you're trying to aim is for this foot peg not to be too high, not to be too low, not to be too short, not to be too long. Obviously, in order for you to better adjust this properly, you do have to test with the boots that you're usually driving or the shoes that you're driving in order for you to understand the placement. And in order for you to adjust this, there's two bolts. There's one down here and there's one up here. You're using them to unscrew it, and then by spinning this, you can actually shorten or longer the distance. By shortening and stretching out this distance, it will increase this point here to go further down or further up. Further down, it means this side will go higher. Further up, it means this side will go down. There's also some foot pegs here which can be adjusted in position this way and that way, so that it can be moved like this. Some have some oval, let's say, adjuster here that you unscrew from the back here, and you can spin it around, which makes small differences, but those differences are good. On my bike, this cannot be adjusted as far as going forward and backwards. But there are foot pegs that you can get, which have adjusters, and you can actually shift this foot peg back and create the distance that you want to create. So this is one method to actually make things a little bit more comfortable for you as far as changing your gears on the gear side of your bike. We've turned our bike around so we can actually see the brake lever. Similar with the left hand side on the clutch, you can adjust the top and the bottom position. To tell you the truth, I have adjusted this as far as much bottom as I can. So the angle that my hand is usually sitting when I'm bent over is around here, which is quite comfortable. It's relatively straight, but I would have liked it to be a little bit lower. Unfortunately, I cannot do this because, as can be seen here, the cables which are coming from the brake lever are touching on top of the forks. So that silver thing there is touching. So this is as low as I can get it. But again, there are two screws. Let me move it a bit like that, which can be seen there. One here, one here. These are Allen type screws. They might differ from bike to bike. You unscrew these ones and you're able to shift this component back and forth. Again, you gotta be careful as far as the clearance. So if you have a look at my bike here, the clearance when it's fully, it's quite close. There's not much gap, but nothing is hitting. As long as nothing is hitting and your hands are not all also getting hit by something, you're good. As far as adjustability goes, when you're holding the levers here. So, because when I'm driving here, I've got it as much far away as I can on this side. So my fingers, when I'm driving, it's around this angle. So I'm pushing, I'm grabbing it with the top of my finger. Being too much like this, I will not suggest it. Being way too outside, I will not suggest it. And because when I'm wearing gloves, it's better for your finger not to hit. I would like to be able to adjust this a little bit more further. So I would have liked it if this was there. Unfortunately, this is the biggest setting that I've got onto it. You cannot set it up any further. The more on the right hand side you go, the closer it becomes. So unfortunately I cannot, do this. Another thing that you can adjust is the length of this. Usually because the brake lever, you're only using like 1, 2, I use this finger, but other people use this finger. You don't have to have it so long. So there is an adjustable screw here that you can actually push this way, and you can actually make it shorter. Or the ones that are not adjustable, if you pay attention, you can have short levers or long levers. Usually on the clutch side, you put a little bit more of a long lever, let's say. And additionally here, you adjust this. You want it to sort of totally disengage when you're about there. You don't want it to disengage by being on this position totally. You want it, like now, when I leave my clutch around there, that's when it starts grabbing and pulling. So there's quite a bit of distance between it. And then when you leave it, this is the full. I've also configured so that there's a little bit of free play here. If you have a look, it's just a tiny bit of free play. I might actually make it more tight. So this is a better idea because I think this is more of a gap that I need. Like around there would have been good. Since we're talking about cables, another thing that you can do is you can adjust the free play on your cable here. I've got around this much free play, which for me is good. If you did want to adjust this, you will have to take this rubber thing out. And there's actually two sort of cables here which you can spin around, you can turn, and this will shorten or give you more free play. Moving over to the brake lever, the brake foot peg, sorry. This is your back brake. This one from factory on me, it was quite high, it was around there. So I did tune it and placed it a lot more further down. The way you do this on this particular bike is you unscrew this little bolt here, and by spinning the top bolt, which can just be seen there, you can actually increase or decrease. I've pushed it this way, so shortening this distance will bring the foot peg a little more down. And as I'm sitting on top of my bike, usually this is how I ride. So it's with the ball of the foot. It's not too much like this, so I'm not driving like that. It's not like this, it's not like that. It's around here. Okay, so this is where it's comfortable for me. Obviously the foot placement might change. So when I'm going over, usually on the left turn, I do kind of put my foot like that. It kind of helps me kind of, and again, like I said, because this is not the proper shoe, the boot is got a little bit of a different placement. When I'm ready to push on the brake, what I do is I shift my foot forward and get ready to press on the brake. So because the boot has the back component here, with my sports shoe I cannot do it, but usually with the boot what I do is this. Now I've got nothing here, but the boot, when you do it, it gets stuck on the heel. So when I do this with my boot, the distance between the brake lever and my foot is not touching. So which means that if I'm sitting here like that and I'm approaching traffic and I want to get ready to press the brakes, I do this move. So from here I move my foot like that. But if you pay attention, it's not too high. Before it was like that. meaning that these muscles on your foot get stressed because you have to hold it on that position, especially when it's rainy conditions and there's a lot of traffic and they're swerving in and out and you want to be like ready to press the brake. This becomes very tiring. So this was very tiring for me on my leg, and what I did is I adjusted it to be a little bit more down. So when I've got my foot like that and I move forward, it's not tiring me here. It's relatively 90 degrees. And if you can, I can just feel it. Same thing with the boot, I can just feel it, but I'm not pushing it. In order for the brake to actually grab, I have to cover this much distance. So here, it's actually grabbing. Tight, just a bit, slight, but it is grabbing. And then you push it all the way down. So this is the movement that I'm doing. So you drive like that, shift your foot forward, and you press on your brakes. You control how much you want to brake. Let it go. If you feel comfortable that there's no need for you to press the brake, again, move it backwards. So guys, that's all I wanted to mention when it comes to adjustability. As I've explained, I have already configured my levers to where I like them. If you asked me, are they the perfect position? I will say no. They are much better than what they were by default, but they're not the perfect. My limitations when it comes to the brake lever is I cannot go further down. I would have liked to go further down because of the high pressure hoses which are behind. And those are hoses that I added. Before it had the capability to go a little bit lower. Also the distance on my brake lever, I would have liked to be able to configure the distance from the fingers a lot further up. Again, due to the actual lever, I cannot do that. And on the clutch side, it's quite good, it's quite perfect. What I would have liked is possibly a little bit outside. That might fix a little bit because now the gap has been quite some time. I might shorten the gap that it has and it has less free play. So that might get fixed. On my gear side, on my foot peg, what I've done is the bike by default was very low. I brought it a little bit up. I told my mechanic to do this, possibly half an inch, not a lot, but it did help me and it made my job of upshifting a lot easier. Before it was very low. What I would like for it to be perfect is increase the distance and make it a little bit more far apart from the foot peg. Unfortunately, this cannot be configured on my bike. On your bike or on other bikes, it might be configured. So you gotta check it out, you know what I mean? And on the brake side, what I did is the opposite. I dropped the foot peg a lot down. It was quite high to the point that when I was moving my foot forward, it was actually hitting the lever. You know what I mean? I had to like really, it was very uncomfortable. I dropped the brake around possibly 1.5 inches, which is like, it's quite a big distance, you know what I mean? Now, when I shift my foot forward, as you saw, it just skims the top of the brake, you know what I mean? So I can keep my foot there in case that I want to be ready to apply the brakes. So that's what I've done. I do suggest that you have a look on your bike, see what can be adjusted, and, you know, kind of tune it, let's say, to your preferences, so you can make your, you know, everyday sort of driving more comfortable and minimize risk, minimize mistakes. You know, the more comfortable you are, the more you can focus on other things. So the whole point and approach on this is try to make it feel as much natural as possible. Anyway, that's it. That's all I want to mention, guys. I'd like to thank you for your time and I hope you have a good day. Goodbye.